Welcome back to the List Building Lifestyle. I'm your host, Igor Kafetz. And if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, you already know how I feel about social media. It's unpredictable, it eats up a ton of your time, and worst of all, you don't own any of the audience that you built. Basically, they can take it away anytime. So when I came across Garin Etcheberry, a content expert who's not only saying the same thing, but also showing people how to actually make content that leads to sales, I knew I had to bring them on the show. Garin helps entrepreneurs, high ticket coaches, and info marketers build simple content ecosystems that don't rely on going viral. He's the founder of lazylongform.com and 60-second shows, and his whole approach is about creating binge worthy content that builds trust and drives action without turning you into a full time content creator. What I love about Garin is that he's not here to impress the algorithm. He is here to build systems that turn attention into action and content into sales. And today, we're going to dive deep into that. We got some really important stuff to cover. We'll talk about why trying to go viral is actually bad for making sales and what you should do instead, how to create content that actually motivates people to buy, and how to make it work with your email list and affiliate funnels, not in place of them. So, if you want to use content to grow your income and your email list, not just to impress the algorithm or impress your friends and family, this episode is definitely for you. Garin, welcome to the List Building Lifestyle.
It's great to be here. That was an awesome intro. Thanks.
I thank you. A friend of mine helped me write it. Actually, his name is Chad GPT. He's from Southeast Asia. So I've got to say, it's rare for someone to basically be saying the complete opposite of what everyone else is trying to do. Right? Everyone's trying to go viral, and you're like one of the few guys, if not the only guy, who's like, no, 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 don't go viral. So why?
Well, I think a good place to start with that is just kind of a simple heuristic of, look what people do, not what they say. So I don't want to call anybody out specifically, but like there are so many people in my feed that teach going viral, that their whole businesses are about going viral. And what do? They go all in on long form content. It's all about slowing it down, spending more time connecting and building relationships and binging. And there's this massive disconnect. Everybody's still like, I need to write these hooks that, stop the scroll. Everybody's talking about stop the scroll and how do we go from, a 5-second hook to a 3-second hook? And how do we analyze our competitors and copy what they're doing that works? Meanwhile, the people that are teaching that are doing the opposite. They're going long form. They're slowing down. And of course, that's the right answer. Like I think if you just ask yourself if you've bought anything recently, was it I saw one ad, I jumped on a sales call, I got hard pitched, I bought, or was it I watched one thing and I watched another, and then I went over to YouTube and I watched a longer video, and then I watched every video that the guy had created, and then I bought from him. Like that's how we buy now. So not only analyze what other people are doing versus saying, but yourself, look at your own buying habits and your own content consumption habits and be in alignment. If it works for you, then it'll work for your clients.
I don't think many people are that self-aware with regards to their own habits and their own, the ways that they buy. Plus, they underestimate just how important it is to understand your own actions, habits, motivations, reasoning behind different things that you do to better understand marketing. I think it's only the geeks like you and me who really analyze psychology and try to understand buying behavior, order form friction, split test 15 different order bumps to find the one that converts to 67%. It's those are the people that I end up here. But I agree that more and more like higher level, I'd say, marketers, they do go long form, and I'm not enjoying the trend of everything becoming shorter. I mean, we've probably seen the same thing happen with direct response marketing over the years. I'm in the email game. I teach people email, and it's always like how long the email needs to be. Oh no, people don't read long email. Of course, they read long emails. I've had launches where all I did was write like really long, like 1,000-word emails to people, and they just get the most sales.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just this today, I read an email from a Mike Dillard. I used to work for Mike Dillard, and I'm sure you
Hmm.
know him.
Yeah,
Um,
he's been on the show actually.
Great. I like he doesn't email a lot, but when he does, it's like, oh my gosh, there's a Mike Dillard email. I gotta read
Yeah.
this,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's because each one. um, I don't know. I'm sure if you made a list of all of the psychology that goes into a good email, he hits every single one. You
Yeah.
know, they're like they're resources. I mean, he has emails I've gone back and read over and over again, or I've saved. You know, I gotta remember that. You know, so he breaks the mold. It's not short, fast dopamine. You know, hammer the list every day. But when Mike Dillard emails you, you read it. I just today I was walking in the park and I sat down at the park bench and I read it as soon as I got it.
Dude, Mike not only writes the like they're not only great to read, but we know for a fact he's making a lot of money with the emails too. I remember I was reading some data on a promotion for a financial newsletter, something. It's kind of like one of the subsidiaries of Agora. They did something to do with Bitcoin. I don't know. Basically, it was a financial thing. And he ran it. He sent like maybe 4 emails to his list. But now his list is huge. But like you said, it comes in every now and again. It's not like he's mailing twice a day. And I think he did something like, I don't want to butch the numbers, but it's definitely been over $400,000 with 4 emails.
Mhm.
I mean, that's crazy. Crazy how not only the copy is good, but that list with full of fanboys, like you, like me, people have been following him from the days of magnetic sponsoring, betternetworker.com. Back in the day, I was still doing MLM. So when he launched the podcast, The Self-Made Man, and a bunch of other projects, like I was following
Mhm.
and eagerly anticipating what's the next thing.
Totally. Yeah, that's a little off tangent for this conversation, but yeah, I started off as a fan too, and then I got to work for him, and it was just kind of cool, just getting to be in that world up close and get to learn from him. So yeah, for sure, I'm huge Mike Dillard fan.
One thing that he said, I was at, I don't recall exactly where I was, but he was there. He was in the panel, and someone asked him about. I don't remember what they asked him about, but the answer was, "We are in the leadership business." So it was something about like the way things are changing or whatever, and they're changing all the time. Now they're changing 10 times as fast because of AI, and they're gonna maybe even the tempo with which things are changing will increase, I'm sure. He said we're in the leadership business. What have you learned? And I know it's a little bit off topic, but what have you learned working with him? Like observing him work, maybe, or the way he does his things, the way he builds his systems. Like, what have you picked up that really had an impact on you?
Yeah, so two things come to mind immediately. One is Mike has, and this is something that's in common with everybody that I've worked with. So I didn't work. Mike wasn't a client of this my businesses. Now I was on his team years ago, and before I built these businesses, I worked for him. I worked for Drew Canoli. I worked for James Altucher. So there's a few guys that I got to kind of witness from up close. And one of the things that they all have in common, and Dillard has this more than anybody else, is like this delusional self belief where he's like, I'm gonna do this, and it's not a matter of if it's going to work. It's a matter of when. And I think there's like fail fast is like this real popular
Mhm.
idea. Fail fast,
Right,
fail
right.
forward, get comfortable with
Yes.
failure. I think with Mike, failure is not even, it's not that he's comfortable with it, it doesn't exist. He's like,
It's a concept he doesn't recognize.
exactly. And
Basically, he runs a test. The test works or doesn't work, and then you run the next one.
totally. And it's
Hmm.
like, I might succeed tomorrow, it might be 10 years from now, but either way I'm going to succeed. So there's no hyping himself up. It's just once it's in there, boom, it's done. It's just a matter of when. So that was probably like the biggest thing that I've learned from him, is just like that level of self-belief. Another thing that I learned from him was giving yourself permission to kind of like just believe in your ideas. I used to think that I'm an idea guy, and I used to think, well, ideas don't matter because it's execution. If unless you execute on it, ideas don't matter. And this one day, when he was doing Self-Made Man, the membership
Hmm.
component to
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
podcast, I would fly down to Austin every month for quite a few months in a row, and he would fly in all of his successful buddies, and we would do these video lessons. So I was a content producer. That's kind of one of the beginnings of what I do now. I got I kind of learned it firsthand from Mike. He invested in my skill set, so I'm eternally grateful for him. But anyways, um, this one day we're sitting on set, and there's uh, I don't know, maybe a couple dozen of us. There's like, me, there was a couple creative live producers that I kind of studied under. There was the lighting guy, the sound guy. There was a couple of, video guys. There was Dillard goes all out, anything he does. So there was like the craft services person. There's a makeup person. There's the set designer. And I'm in the back of the room. I'm kind of looking around at all these people, and I realize there's one mic. So I'm like, in this room, the ratio, the value of ideas versus execution is 1 to 24. So it's not true that the ideas aren't valuable. Like it's 24 times more valuable in this context. That was kind of like a big mind opener for me. I was like, wow, okay, maybe there's something there. If you got the idea and you can build the team around it, that's actually super valuable.
I think that's what great leaders do.
Hmm.
I've never considered myself a great leader because I've always went from my motivation stems from fear, not so much from a vision. Or should I say, it stems from a negative vision more so than it does from a positive one. Like, I don't have a vision of becoming a billionaire, but I do have an anti-vision of being broken, homeless, and losing everything. So that vision is vivid all the time.
Hmm.
Could wake up in the middle of the night actually thinking about it. So Mike, though, is very different, right? He's got the positive vision, the vision of the future, the vision where new possibilities exist that did not exist before.
Hmm.
I think that's what great entrepreneurs have. They have that ability to conceive it, but then they can build a team which they will lead to make that happen.
Hmm.
Like, they really have people buy into their vision.
Totally. And I think now, there's never been a better time for that than right now, especially with AI, because I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said already before, but information is a commodity now. You can just
Yes.
ask ChatGPT to answer any question you could
Yes.
ever imagine, but that's not what people need anymore. People now, they want guidance, the leadership, but the
Mhm.
components of leadership are guidance and encouragement and vision and support and confidence. People, you can ask ChatGPT to give you a game plan to accomplish literally whatever you want, but that you don't want the game plan. You want somebody going to take you by the hand and say, "Hey, I've got the path, and all you got. If you follow me, we're gonna get you where you want to go." That's what people want. I don't just want a game plan. I want the reassurance that the path that I'm going to take is going to get me where I need to go, and that I'm not going to be walking alone. That's the biggest premium there is today, and that's why the coaching space has exploded so much. Is that that's what people really want. And yeah, that's where leadership comes in for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned you're an idea guy. That's very interesting topic for me personally to discuss because as a copywriter, I know that most promotions swing pretty much on the big idea, right? It's like one big idea, a hook maybe that can make or break it. How do you see this translate in the socials? Like, where do you see this concept applied, and how is it being applied successfully today by the ones who are succeeding on social networks?
I just want to say, like, I am so pumped that you brought that up because I love this subject so much. And you can tell me if you're wrong, but I feel like I don't hear this almost anybody talking about this. Maybe if we're in different circles, you hear about it more than I do. But um, I feel like I don't hear this talked about nearly enough. Do you?
No, not really.
Yeah, so same thing. I've gotten to work for Dillard, who's a world-class copywriter. I've worked for a couple different Agora kind of
Mm,
subsidiaries. So I've been
okay.
in that copywriting world. And like you said, any good copywriter will tell you the most important aspect is the big idea. That is the foundation that everything else is built on top of. And I feel like, obviously, no shade whatsoever, but ever since Hormozy wrote $100 million offers, everything online is the USP. I help this person get this result in this amount of time without this big objection. He calls that the value equation, but that's just a USP, which is great. I
Yeah.
have that for my business too. I help coaches and high
Look,
ticket
it's the
entrepreneurs.
basics, right? Everybody
Yeah,
have to have one. Yeah.
100%. So, but the thing is, that's not a big idea. That's a USP. And there was a good period of time where that the USP was enough because it was a big promise. Hey, I can help you get over 10K a month. I can help you get over, 20K a month. But if that's all there is, the promise has to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger to grab attention. But the bigger they get, the more people are burnt out by it. So I don't know about you, but like my feed is just full of these crazy. I'll help you book 200 sales calls, and if I don't, I'll work for free until I do. we're going to get you over $200,000 a month in the next 30. And it's just like, I don't care anymore. I don't care. I don't believe you. So that's where the big idea comes in. You have to have, because, I'm probably just coming across sounding like a, amateur copywriter here, but, um, somebody has to believe that they can get the result before they buy.
Right.
Belief precedes buying.
Yes.
And the buying decision has to be the customer's decision. You can't force it on them.
No.
If buying is your decision, they're gonna pull back, and they're gonna be
Yeah, there's going to be a
resentful.
pushback. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. You have to lead them to where the light bulb goes off and they go, "Oh my gosh, I should buy because I can get this. This can work for me." And that's where the big idea comes from. I worked for a company for a few years that was in the weight loss space. It was a keto product for Christians. It was kind of an interesting intersection. It might sound kind of hacky on the surface, but like we did some amazing work, and we had such an incredible team, and um really it only makes sense that, like, I know we're kind of off on a tangent, but this might be interesting for the copywriters in the audience. But the way that we came about with the idea was that, people talk about how if weight loss is a temporary habit, it's going to be really, really hard because
Sure.
your natural urges are all pulling
Yeah.
you back
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
unhealthy direction. What you do is you change literally everything about who you are as a person. You change your programming. If you can think like a skinny person, you'll take skinny actions and you become skinny. So it's kind of a paradox where the more you transform literally every last aspect of your life, the easier the result is because it's a natural outcropping of your new identity. So if that's true, and we're going to 180 our entire life, wouldn't it make sense to lean on the most powerful tool that you have in your toolbox, which is your faith? And when you do that, and when you can use that to realign your
I love
identity,
that.
yeah. So
I
we had
absolutely love that.
amazing testimonials in that company for sure.
That is awesome. All right, man. I got a really long list of questions that I'm supposed to ask you, by the way, but I'm really terrible at it because I keep pushing us into the totally different direction.
And but
Um,
just really quick to interrupt, I don't think that we're going off on a rabbit trail here, because I really do believe that the big idea, it's so incredibly important. And if we are correct, which we are, that's the foundation that your marketing is built off of. Social media is your marketing. And I push back when people treat it like these silos. Okay, well, I do email and I do short form and I do long form. The most effective form of marketing is when you create an ecosystem where it all ties together, where somebody sees an ad and then they binge a little bit of short form. It pushes them over to long form. Now they binge a ton more. Then there's some kind of call to action. They get a lead magnet. They buy a front end offer, pushes it, get it on the email list, goes, it all works in concert. And if you do that, then the foundation underneath all of that is the big idea. And if you can lock in on the big idea and then you share that in your short form, in your long form, in your email copy, that's when things really, really work. Because I won't get into the whole story, but one of those Agora companies that I worked for, I created all of our back end products. So we would sell an ebook and get people on our list, send them into back end offers. I would create it and then hand it off to our copywriter. He'd write an email series for it, and he would try to think up, just like what you said, what's the hook? What's the idea here? Well, there was this disconnect where the product was built and then he created the idea to sell it. So people would come in on this emotional high that we there's a trigger, but then there's a letdown because there's no connection to the product itself. And then we realized he and I have to work in conjunction with each other. I come up with the idea, I give it to him, he comes up with the hook, he gives it back, I bake it into the product. We go through a couple cycles like that. Now you've got your big idea baked into the product itself, into the messaging, and then you share it in your socials, you share it in your ads, you share it in your emails. And then that's when you become one of one, because it's not just a generic product with clever marketing on top of it. It's baked into every aspect of it. And I'm repeating myself, but that's what you got to do.
well, it's good to repeat things at work every now and again because, I mean, for me at least, like when I'm getting into a new thing, I have to read like 5, 7, 10 books on the topic and have like 10 different authors repeat the same exact thing but in a different way for it to finally hit you. So you gotta go from like reading about it to sort of memorizing it to then be like, okay, I kind of get it, but eventually when someone really says it in like a unique way that really fits into your neuron acceptance protocol, you're like, I get it now, right? So yeah, the big idea, it's so underestimated. It's absolutely underestimated. And so many people spend so much time on tactics on platforms. Oh, are you on TikTok? No, you got to be. No, you're missing out on millions of dollars. It's like, come on. There's different principles at work when all combined together in tandem, in concert, like you said. That's where the results come from. And the concept of the ecosystem that you talk about is absolutely spot on. Creating an environment, a planet, a world, a universe where they engage with you over several different platforms.
Totally. And then you combine that with the big idea where, like with our clients, what we do is we do online filming sessions. So I always say message over medium. So medium is the format in which we're sharing
Yeah,
our
yeah.
message. So like just like what you said, people are like, "Oh, it's TikTok, now it's Instagram, now it's stories, whatever it is." That's the medium. That's the delivery mechanism. I want to focus on the message itself. And that's where the big idea comes in. Okay, we got the big idea. Now how do we express that in the messaging? How do you say the right thing to the right person at the right time? And once we capture that, we do that with producers. So I'm the main producer of my business. So we get on a filming session and we just ask questions. We try to go as deep as we can. Everybody else is trying to go up. How do we grab attention really fast? I want to ask the questions that are going to lead to the content that nobody else can share. I want you to share something that people can't hear from literally anywhere else. So my clients will say something and I'll go, "Hey, there's something in there. Let's pull on that thread. Let's see where that goes. Let's just dig down deep." And once we get that, okay, cool. Now video format. Now we share it in every medium. We'll share that on short form, long form, email, quotes, tweets, stories, everything else. You provide that message, and then we repurpose that into every medium. And most people do the opposite.
All right. Well, I have a question that's a little bit more specific, like a
Yeah.
hypothetical scenario, which I'm sure is happening millions of times a day. Let's say we've got someone listening right now and they're thinking, okay, cool. I'm posting on Reels. I'm reposting that same thing on TikTok and whatever every day. I'm posting every day like a madman or a woman, but nobody's buying. What am I doing wrong? What would you tell them to do different? Where would you tell them to start?
Yeah. So, man, bunch of ideas. The first is, I would start with just kind of like a reframe of what our intentions are here, where want to get as many views as possible and then hope that somewhere in those views we might have some buyers. So the way I look at virality is like I want to create one piece of content and show it to as many people as possible. I want to do the opposite. I want to find, one person and show them as much content as possible. So
Hmm.
like for my business, I think about, okay, how many clients do I want? If I had 200 clients, I would have a 8-figure business and well beyond. So my goal is I want every piece of content to get 200 views. That's it. But if there are 200 people that are going to buy, that's all I need. So
Mhm.
don't think about how am I going to get somebody to stop the scroll like we're talking about, not, what's trendy right now, but how do I go so deep that only 200 people are going to tune in, but those are the 200 people that are going to grow my business. And Hormozy said the same thing. He said that there was a period where he decided I'm only going to make content for the top 1% of my audience, the
Hmm.
people who are over 8 figures that are going to make me tens of millions of dollars. And when he did that, not only did he attract those people, but his whole audience blew up because that was content that nobody else was talking about. So that might be a long answer, but that's my first answer is just like, okay, let's get really deep on that, just the small group of people that we actually want to do business with. And
Hmm.
then
Interesting.
after that, the next thing I would do is um, I have a bunch of frameworks. I probably don't have time to walk through all of them, but I have some frameworks that are designed to dig really deep. So the same thing, not short attention, but visceral connection.
Can you let me cut in real quick? Can you give us an example of a project you worked on where where you went deep, and like an example of like a surface level idea slash claim, and an example of how you went way deeper and what it became?
Yeah, I mean, I've got tons of examples like that. So it's really funny because sometimes my clients will come to filming sessions and they'll have what they want to talk about, and I'm like, yeah, sure, we can do that. And when you do theirs, not always, but a lot of times, it's like kind of rigid and robotic because they've thought about it a lot. So let's get through that as fast as we can. and I want to get to my questions, and I can kind of open them up a little bit because they're a little bit off guard. They haven't had time to think about it, and I love going off script. So one of my favorite ones, I was working with a personal trainer, and he's Samoan, and or no Polynesian, and he said that a lot of people in his culture are like kind of morbidly obese, actually, and there's a lot of heart disease, and people tend to kind of die early because they're just very big people. And he said, I wanted to show my people that we weren't doomed by genetics, but we could be in great health. So that's why he got into fitness, and that's how he became a trainer. So I said, hey, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you agree with the statement if I said I didn't start a personal training business to make money? I started it to change the future of my people. And he goes, yes, that's exactly it. So we did that as a piece of content, and it felt so good to like help him kind of unlock that. Another one, I was working with another personal trainer who she had won Miss Olympia in the bikini competition, and she said that when she won that competition, she had such an unhealthy view of her physical appearance that she wouldn't go to the beach because she was embarrassed to be seen in her bikini. And I said, okay, we have to dig into this. Like, just tell me that story. Here I literally was the number one bikini body in the world. I wouldn't be seen in a bikini because I was so self-conscious. And she goes, do people really want to hear that? And I'm like, yes, they do. Because that resonates so much. Like, I'm uncomfortable with how I look, and I'm not the number one in the world. How could you feel that way? So there's something deeper here, and that's not a message that anybody can hear from literally anybody else on the planet. So that was a fun one. This is a random one that pops into my head. I've worked with a guy for a long time who is a CEO of a big company, and he's really into operations, just the microscopic day-to-day, little things. So he said that they do it's an e-com business. They do tons of shipping and receiving. So they have this big warehouse, and by the loading dock, they have a cooler next to the door. So the drivers will show up, they'll knock on the door, they open it up, and everyone that works in the warehouse is trained that before they open the door, they grab a cold drink out of the cooler, they open the door, and then they greet the guy and they say, hey, I hope you're having a great day. Here's a drink. And they said the way that they treat the lowest person on the org chart, the way that they treat the people at the very top of the org chart, the most important people in the business. And same thing, I said, this is content. We got to do this video. And he was like, who wants to hear about, FedEx drivers? And I was like, that's not a message you can hear from literally anybody else on the planet. So, anyways, I've got tons of those, but those are just little stories that
I think those are amazing examples, and they made me want to kind of revisit some of my own stuff, because if you can get your audience to truly resonate with you or with your story or with part of your story or part of your personality or something happened to you, something that you wish would happen to you, it's tremendous. The connection it creates, the long lasting connection it creates, is incredibly valuable.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
What's your take on AI generated content?
I mean, like I said before, my goal is to spread a message that people can't hear from anywhere else. And if you're using AI generated content, it's the definition of the exact opposite, right? Like, AI is a predictive machine. My understanding how it works, it kind of predicts the next logical word in the sequence. It's as unauthentic as you can possibly get. So the way I actually use ChatGPT a ton, but the way I always say is you can either use AI for the idea and then you execute on it, or you provide the idea and it executes on it. And I think most people do it the wrong way around, where they go, hey, give me 10 ideas for whatever it is. If you do that, great. You are now a freelancer who works for ChatGPT. Your job is to be the mouthpiece that is spreading ChatGPT's message into the world. You cannot do that. And I think a lot of people lie to themselves. They say, well, I've trained it on my voice. That's such a big thing. I've trained it. What you should do is, if you make a GPT for yourself, go into, because there's the two panels. There's the configure panel and the conversation, whatever it is. look into uh, the instructions where it logs, it saves the prompts that you've given it. Like it's kind of shocking how simplistic it reduces you to. So I took like I have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of my own transcripts because as part of our process, we have a spreadsheet for all of our clients where we just log everything, and one of those is the transcript. So anything that they've ever said that we've recorded, it's logged in text format. So I took mine, dropped it into a GPT, and said, "Learn how I talk." So then I was like, "Well, how do you know?" Like, because I ran out of saved memory. So I said, "Well, if I ran out of saved memory, then how are you still drawing on this stuff?" So I look in the instructions, and there's like 3 lines. Garin likes to talk no nonsense, short sentences, and I'm like, I give you 1,000 pages, and it's these 3 lines, and that's what it means to talk like I talk. So anyways, that's a long way of saying that's a complete farce, in my opinion, that it can like really speak the way that you speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it has its flaws. I think it'll get better over time. I think they'll add more memory. I believe recently they've added more memory. Like last week, I think I got a message saying that now there's a little bit more capacity. But yeah, you can tell. Like whenever you either watch a video, read a post, you can tell.
Well, a big thing too about it, like I said, I use it all the time, and I try to be very conscientious of like not being delusional that like I don't want to be biased and say, well, it's no good because I'm trying to protect my niche here. Um, but what I will say, it has gotten way better from when I first started using it. When I first started using it for content in any capacity, it was horrible. Now I do use it for more stuff. It's getting good fast, but it's not even about the quality of it. It's about um just blending in. So I think
Mm.
a perfect example, I'm always hiring. So just the other day, I put up a job post and I only had to read 3 or 4 proposals before I realized that they all sounded exactly the same. It was like introduction, one sentence that connected to what the post said, one paragraph about their resume, headline, 5 bullet points, summary. It was like this outline. Every single, and the thing was good. It was really good, but every single one, I was like, oh, wait a minute, they're all using ChatGPT because it has like the formula that it follows. And the first person that broke the mold, I can't remember if they were better or worse than the other ones or not, but the fact that it was different, it was like the sun just broke through the clouds. So that's what you need to do with your content. Is I think a lot of people they'll ask ChatGPT to create content for them. And they go, "Hey, this is pretty good," but they don't take a step back and think about, okay, well, if I didn't use that in the first place, what would great look like? And it just blends in. So that whether it's good or not, that's not even important. It's just that it's not unique. You have to be unique.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think more people need to realize that they need to stand out
Mm-hmm.
rather than try to be like everybody else.
Totally.
All right, we're getting close to time, and we have something that we do here. I had a million other questions, unfortunately, but something we do here is called rapid fire questions
Mm-hmm.
segment, where I just shoot a bunch of questions at you, and you're supposed to answer them with like a sentence, maybe two, right? So, would you be open about
Yeah,
doing
let's do it.
something like that? Okay, cool. So, first question: content you hate seeing in your feed.
Um, I'm gonna try. I'm trying not to be long-winded here. Um, I hate content that is just uh look how rich I am, look how fancy my car is. I hate that.
Okay. Number two, one thing you wish every marketer knew about content.
I wish they knew that it's a gift to be able to spread a message that you're passionate about with so many people.
Hmm. That's a very positive outlook.
And I mean that 100%. Like my wife and I were in Key West a few years ago. And I was kind of thinking to myself, if you could go, like most people today kind of look at content like social media is a necessary evil. I hate it. It's toxic, but I got to do it for my business. If you could go back and tell Ernest Hemingway, we went to his house, hey, there's this magic box you carry in your pocket. You got an idea, you can just write it down and the whole world will see it. That would be like the most mind-blowing thing. I don't need to get my typewriter out and then send it off to the publisher, then a year later it comes out. What a gift.
True. Until everyone does it. One platform you drop tomorrow if you could.
Um, you know, I hate to say it, but maybe Instagram.
Good. I hate it. Who's one creator in our space that you love watching and think is doing great?
Right now it's this guy named James Smith. He's kind of a good example of he mostly talks to personal trainers, which I am not, but I think I saw I can't even remember what I saw first. Something on Instagram, a short form thing, and it pushed me over to YouTube. I watched 10 or 20 of his videos. I've watched so many that now I'm just like, I just started at the top of his feed. I'm like, I'm just going to watch every single YouTube video until I'm done with all of them. It's so good. So he's somebody who's doing it right for sure.
What's your guilty pleasure content? The stuff you watch but never admit.
Um, okay. I'm trying to think about what I watch. I will admit that I listen to a lot of music on YouTube, and for some reason I'm in like this Peter Gabriel, Steve Winwood, like 80s music zone. I listen to
Okay.
Big Time 5,000 times over the past month. So it's not watching exactly, but that's probably the content that I've been consuming the most is 80s pop music.
Okay. Most common mistake you see on a content strategy call.
I'm trying to make it maybe a little deeper than what we've already talked about, but only not only system, only doing reels. I think that's probably one of the biggest ones. I just want reels and I just want to go to viral, going viral, only doing reels, not doing a full ecosystem. And like I said, copying, I hate that advice so much. Just copy what your competitors are doing, not being authentic, true to your own message.
Biggest lesson entrepreneurship has taught you.
Oh man. Um, I mean, you've heard this advice a million times, or this, quote a million times. Entrepreneurship is the greatest vehicle for personal development, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't know, but yeah, perseverance, trusting in your dreams, being a little bit crazy, kill to eat,
Being unreasonable.
being unreasonable.
Going
Yeah,
against
for
your
sure.
friends and family who are trying to convince you to stop doing what you're doing because you're wasting your time.
Totally. I'm a big believer in challenging the challenging assumptions and
Hmm.
rewriting the rules of the game. It's like checkers and chess. They both use the same checkerboard, kind of the same pieces,
Yeah.
but you change the rules of the game and all of a sudden you can go across the whole board.
Yeah.
So that's what entrepreneurship has taught me. It's like, okay, how do we take a step back and just rewrite the rules to get what we want faster, or get whatever you
Yeah.
want?
The walls that have been put in front of you are usually just glass, uh, you know, that you can break.
Hmm. Totally.
A book or a podcast that changed how you think about business.
uh James Altucher, I mean, he changed my life because I used to listen to that podcast, and then I ended up working for him. That was kind of my first foray into this world. So that's the easiest answer is the James Altucher podcast. Um
Give us a book.
yeah, book. I'm trying to think what a good business book is. Oh, you know what it
It doesn't
is?
have to be a business book. Can be any book.
Okay, in that case I've got two. My favorite book is Slightly Out of Focus by
Slightly out of focus.
yeah, it's a guy. He was a contemporary of Ernest Hemingway, and he. I won't recount the whole story. He was a photographer in World War II. They called him the man that invented himself because he was a photographer in Hungary, and no one would buy his photos. So he said that is at this time. I always get the names mixed up. Frank Capra was the famous movie director,
Right.
and he made up this character named Robert Capa, and or no, Frank Kappa, and he said he's a famous photographer from America. I'm the only guy in all of Hungary who has his photographs, and all of a sudden he couldn't sell them fast enough, and he just became that guy. People don't even remember what his real name was; they just remember his Kappa, and he became like one of the most famous photographers of all time, and he just had balls of steel. When the D-Day happened, all the photographers, the journalists, they would pick two numbers, and it was what wave of the invasion you could go in on, and he was the only guy that went in, the only journalist that went in one of the first three waves. He was on the first wave. He was on one of the very first boats that dropped that gate on the beach, and there
My
wasn't
God.
another journalist until wave 4. He went up the beach, took all of his film, got back on a boat, went out to sea, got more film, came back in, did it again. Got crazy stories, but he was like a larger than life kind of Hemingway character, and talking about challenging assumptions and and doing blazing your own trail. Such a cool guy. It's an amazing book. It's a great read. Um,
Amazing.
and then the business book is uh, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace
Mhm.
Wattles.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see this in the camera. You can render to God and humanity no greater service than to make the most of yourself. It's a fantastic book. I've read that book so many times.
If you could automate one part of your life forever, what would it be?
Oh man, I I don't think I have a really funny answer. If I could automate cooking or cleaning or something like that, you know.
Okay, what's annoying the hell out of you, but you have to do it all the time?
Uh yeah, I'm trying to. I want to give you a good juicy one. I don't know. Driving. I hate driving so much. It blows my mind how hard it is to buy good cards for your wife. I'm like, how you go to the store. There's like 5,000 cards and they're all horrible. Like, can't anybody, maybe that's a business. Go buy 10 cards and then send them to me once a month, and then I can just give them to my wife. And I don't know.
Okay, it's wife card automation then.
There you go. I'll have to think about that. Yeah.
Cool. So I've had a great time hosting on the show. One question left,
Mhm.
and that is, where can we go and find out more about you? Who do you help, and how can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely. So you can, the most important thing is, I always want to just provide a lot of value. So I hope that I have today. And, if we left any stones unturned, or if there's anything that, we didn't cover or any ways that I
We
can be
just have
helpful.
to get you back on the show. I mean,
Hey,
there's too much to
that's,
cover.
this is fun. Hey, and we talked the other day, we talked for twice as long as this, so obviously we don't have a problem chatting with each other. So yeah, I mean, if there's ever anything I can do to provide value, to solve problems, whatever it is, more than happy to do that in any way that I can. So, um, easiest way is just to, look me up on Instagram at 60-second shows. 60 is all spelled out. If you got any questions, just shoot me a DM. And, you and I had talked about this earlier too. I like to kind of give, a free gift. I have a bunch of GPTs that I use to come up with ideas, and kind of, I know I gave my whole spiel about that, but um, I've got a few that I usually sell, but I'll give away one for free. So there's one called uh, I'm trying to think which one I want to give to everybody. The domino droppers. So what I like to do is to think about, what are the 10 things, going back to belief. What are the 10 things that somebody needs to believe about your business before they're going to buy? And then we're going to make a piece of content for each one of those things. And then we can either share that in short form or long form, but it's great for retargeting too. So you run an ad, and if they buy, great. If they don't, we retarget with those 10 things. And now, one at a time, we're both knocking down those objections and also instilling those beliefs until finally they're like, oh my gosh, I got to buy from this guy. So if you DM me the word domino, I'll set up my mini chat to send you over that GPT for free.
Awesome, that'd be great. So that's you said it's 60-second shows on Instagram.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, guys, so go to Instagram, uh, look up 60-second show. That's all spelled out using words, not numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and send Garin a DM with the word domino. So you'll get his trained GPT that will help you come up with 10 beliefs that your target market needs to believe in order to buy from you. It's
Yep. And
amazing.
then
I love
it'll adapt it to you and give you some content ideas too. So here's the belief, here's what the headline's going to be, here's what it's about. So to kind of map it all out for you.
Awesome. Well, Garin, it's been a pleasure, and I'm definitely getting you back on the show real soon because we have so much more to cover.
Yeah,
Guys,
let's do it.
sorry about that. Guys, thanks for listening. That was another episode of the show. We're gonna get more of Garin later on, I promise. And I want to make it a public promise. So I'm held accountable. So, Garin, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.